Dr. Vinita Puri is an experienced social worker, accredited mediator, coach, and consultant with a passion for positive social change. As the Clinical Director of Resilience, Counseling and Coaching Services, she provides workplace assessments, strategic planning, and organizational development to a wide range of organizations. Additionally, she provides psychotherapy services to individuals and groups as they navigate life transitions and processes of change. Dr. Puri holds a doctorate in industrial and organizational psychology, a master's in criminological research, a master's in social work, a specialized honors BA in sociology. She is currently completing her PhD in psychology with a dissertation focused on therapeutic jurisprudence. So much talent, oh my God. She is a faculty professor for the MS Psychology program at Western State University, California. She continues to use her platform as Miss Canada World Universal Elite 2021-2022 and Miss FDC Globe International 2023-2024 to mentor and empower women to fulfill their greatest potential. What a talent! What a personality! So we are very excited to listen to Dr. Vinita. Please, welcome.
Thank you, thank you. Happy International Women's Day, everyone. What a beautiful event it's been so far this evening. I just can't tell you the energy I feel in this room. Everyone here, I want to thank each and every one of you. Your support for an organization like this, which embodies the spirit of Women's Day, is tremendous. You know, without our community partners, without our sponsors, without funds, you can't do anything. Doesn't matter what education you have, you know, doesn't matter anything. You really need to commit and dedicate yourself to a cause such as this. And I want to acknowledge, although she has already been acknowledged, Ms. Uzma Irfan Aziz. You are a role model to me. You are an amazing woman. You're so passionate about making a difference in the lives of others. The first time my mom actually met you, she said, "This lady is different. She is the real deal. She is someone who wears her heart. She's a leader, but she is not your typical leader. She leads with passion, with love. She does it because she cares about people. And that makes a big difference, right? I work with organizations, different workplaces, different types of managers, different type of leadership. And you know, that old traditional mentality that you have to be very firm and, you know, make the rules and not have relationships with the people you work with, that's not the way to go. That's not emotionally intelligent. You're emotionally intelligent. Just one thing I would correct you on is you said, I might get emotional, so please excuse me. That is wrong. That is wrong, because our emotions, we should not feel shame about our emotions, right? That's the whole problem, is that the gender stereotypes, the gender norms dictate that men should not show their feelings. They should be tough. They don't cry. If you're a strong person, if you're a leader, you shouldn't do that. But who says that, right? We need to feel. We need to feel things. It's okay to feel things, right? But it's how we turn that energy from our emotions to do something positive with it. And the artistic forms we see, dance, art, you know, the tools kit, all this amazing work like Severa has put out, This is where we can turn our anger, our frustrations, all of that into something beautiful that someone can do something empowering with. And that is the joy. So I want to take a second to pause and just think about what empowerment means. People use this word all the time. Women's empowerment. Women's empowerment. What is empowerment? What is empowerment? Does anybody have a thought about that? What does it mean to empower someone? Because if I'm empowering you, I'm doing something to you. Am I doing something to you, or are you already whole? Influencing. Influencing how? Okay, so the reason why I think it's important is because sometimes we need to really understand the words we're using. So there's a difference between sympathy and empathy. And empowerment is empathy. Can anyone tell me the difference between sympathy and empathy? If you sympathize with someone's story and their struggle versus empathizing with them, what's the difference? Yes?
Sympathy is when you feel bad for the person, and empathy is when you feel for that person, you feel what the person is doing.
Correct, correct. So when you pity someone, how does that make that person feel?
Victimized.
Victimized. Is that empowering to victimize someone?
No.
Absolutely not. No. But if I'm empathetic towards you, I'm walking with you. I'm supporting you, but you ask respectfully, how would you like me to help? Right? You can't tell somebody what they should do. I learned this lesson early back when I started as a social worker over 20 years ago. When I heard these horrible stories, I said, you should just leave. You should just get out of this marriage. Why are you here? Right? And I realized it's not easy for everybody to make this decision. It is very hard. There is a lot of consequences sometimes to making that difficult decision. And people need to be given resources, information, educated about their rights. There's a lot of things that we can do to motivate people and guide them in the right direction, but ultimately the decision is theirs. Why? Because the most important value to me, and I think it should be for everybody, is freedom of choice. If you feel somebody else is telling you what to do, how are you then different from the perpetrator? Nobody should ever control your mind or your conscience. Never. That is empowerment. And that's what I really want to talk about today and dissect today. But today is a celebration. We can go to the first slide. Today is a celebration for the achievements of women. And as I stand here, I think I'm so fortunate as a second generation South Asian woman to be here, to be a keynote speaker, to be talking to a room of people. Do you know, just in 1975 is when the United Nations actually declared International Women's Day. 1975, they're just a few years before I was born. And it's been recognized ever since, and it's to celebrate the achievement of women, right? And also where we still have to go. But I ask you this question because, you know, change happens, right? Social change happens. But if you think about it, that's not a long time ago. I wouldn't have been able to speak, have the right to go to school, be able to choose an occupation, be able to choose somebody I love, to get married to. There's so many rights and freedoms that we have today that we take for granted. I think a lot of people do take that for granted. That we have a freedom of choice. It goes back to that freedom of choice, being able to make your own independent decisions. We didn't have that. Do you know why? Because we were considered property. Women were considered property. We were not considered human beings. We didn't have the right to vote until the 1940s. right? We didn't have a choice. We had to do what we had to do. And so what progress we've made, what change we've made, but it started with a small group of labor movement activists in the United States, postal workers, who said, you know what, we're working in horrendous conditions. You know, this is not right. We need to change things, but you know what, we don't have a right to vote. So guess what, we have to get political. We have to get involved. We have to gather with people, and that's where the concept of solidarity came. What does solidarity mean? Does anybody know what solidarity means? This. It means this, united. If we are not this, we cannot change anything. Zero. And you know what makes this not happen in this world is that we see each other as different. This is not just between men and women. I'm talking about racial tension. I'm talking about ageism. I'm talking about classism. I'm talking about ableism, all the isms. There is so much hate. There's so much, superiority versus inferiority, so much ego, so much competing, so much looking at what this person has, what that person doesn't have, right? And it's unfortunate. It's unfortunate, but until we see that all social oppressions are linked, we cannot truly make progress. That's why progress takes time and it's slow. Right? Because if I fought for someone else, even though I might not be in their culture or their community, but if it was unjust how that person was being treated, that I'm an ally, right? And when I need them, they're my ally. And we're all allies for each other, because what are we fighting for at the end of the day? It's the same thing. We're fighting for social justice, period. What is social justice? Social justice. What is it? What does justice mean? What does equality mean?
Equal opportunity, fairness.
So first of all, people always ask me this question. Okay, but we are different. We're all different. Okay, but I have one question to make you think about this. We might be all different colors, different sizes, different ages, different this, different that, but does that mean anyone is less in value? No, we're all valuable. We all have our own strengths. We all have our own weaknesses. It's just that in society, certain things are more permissible than others. And what about the fact that some people don't fall under binary genders, right? Some people don't identify as women or men. What about them? Right? So when we look at women's rights versus males, I think it's just a very simplistic way of looking at things. I was sorry to hear about when the Suwaira project, when Miss Uzma Irfan Aziz was telling us about, it was hard to recruit men to be a part of that study. Well, why do you think it was so hard to recruit men? Okay. Yeah, so it's hard to accept that people are equal. Okay, so how do people perceive men, or how do men perceive other men that speak up for women? We, maybe, possibly, especially young boys. And again, we can't stereotype. I think this is changing. I don't think that all men are the same. I don't think anyone should ever say anyone is the same. But for sure, patriarchy still exists, right? Patriarchy is a common ideology that's pervasive, and it actually imprisons men as well. Okay? Think about it. if I'm a man and I can't cry, I can't show my emotions, I can't, like I have to be aggressive and ultra, dominant. I mean, maybe that's not my nature. Maybe I don't want to do that. Maybe that's not comfortable for me. But because of peer pressure, because of social pressure, I feel that's the only way to prove myself and to fit in. I mean, that's all a facade. That's a role play. That's not real. That's not authentic nature. Socialization is learned. Gender is a social construct. We come into this world as human beings, right? We're just humans. That's it. Okay? But when we learn girls should like pink and boys should like blue, and boys should play with these toys and girls should play with these toys, we start that whole process with them, don't we? And then we wonder, why do they treat each other differently? Well, because you raised them differently. Didn't you? I feel very, very blessed. I was born into a family that wanted me. I was born a girl and it was celebrated. Unfortunately, I've worked with many women in the past that they said that was the saddest day in their parents' lives when they were born, because they were viewed as a burden. It made me very sad to hear that. And education, my parents, my family always encouraged me to learn as much as I can, to be as best as I can. But you know what? I've worked with people who told me, no, education just wasn't a priority. And they were told, no, you should focus on getting married and finding a good husband. And in terms of being able to choose my choice of career, how I live my life, being able to travel, all of these things, my family always supported me. And I feel very blessed. And thank you to my mom, to my dad, to my grandmother, to all my beautiful female role models in my family, who told me that you're the same, you're exactly the same. If you're a boy, you're a girl, you're our child. Isn't that beautiful? Isn't that how it should be? But yet, why is it so hard for so many other people in this world? Why is that difficult? Why is gender such a big deal? Why? And it's not just our Indian culture. There's many places in the world where it is not a privilege to be female, is it? So, I wanted to talk a little bit about gender norms, right? And so I've started to talk about how, where we get them, where we learn these things. So the good thing is that because we learned it, we can unlearn it, right? Because it's not natural, actually, right? And so one of my first work experiences was working for the John Howard Society of Toronto. If you're familiar with that organization, I used to work with men in conflict with the law who were charged with domestic violence, and I worked in the prisons. And from that experience, I actually learned a lot from those men. At first, when I was starting that work, I thought, these are probably just these terrible monsters. But when I got to know them, they cried with me. They talked to me. They shared with me that they had traumas in their childhood. And they were, victimized at some point in their life. Not everyone, of course, we can't generalize, but a lot of them, this is the life they knew. And where they got their social support and peer support and friendship was with other men who were alpha male and dominant and had that aggression. And really, aggression was the only socially acceptable social norm that they could exhibit. So that's what they did, but it wasn't really who they were. And that's when I started to realize that, you know, all of this, why are we playing these roles that are ineffective, that are not helping anyone? And I really learned a lot from that experience, and I think it's important to engage men and boys. It's absolutely necessary because you're half the equation, right? Without men at the table, there is no feminism. There is no gender equality. You can't talk about equality and not have solidarity. That's the point. We need to all get involved in open dialogues and discussions and break down the stereotypes, right? And the more we do that, the more we learn about ourselves. And the closer that we get. If people don't talk, people won't learn. People won't learn what somebody's experience or lived experience through an empathetic lens. And I think that we also should empathize with men. Men who have had to live with this patriarchal conditioning when that's actually not natural. I don't think anyone is born in this world who wants to just hate and be aggressive and be violent. That's not, you know, things happen to people why people become that way. And I think if we look at it as a symptom rather than the root cause, we can be more effective. So when I hear feminism, I say, yes, I'm a feminist, but I believe in equality. I believe in equality of the sexes. I don't believe women are better than men, and I don't believe men are better than women. I think everybody is equal. Everybody's equal. You know, different, but equal in value. So I just want to leave you all with that thought. And I want to thank again Malta Women's Council for inviting me here today. It's really an honor. Thank you so much.